She vanished in fire and chaos in 1942, taking secrets to the bottom of the Java Sea. For 75 years, the world searched for America's first aircraft carrier, USS Langley. The ship that changed naval warfare forever. Now, her wreck has finally been found. But what did the ocean keep hidden all this time? The answer reveals the true price of innovation and sacrifice. The Navy's gamble began with a coal-hauling workhorse. USS Jupiter, launched in 1912, was no one's idea of a legend until a handful of visionaries saw something more in her steel hull. In the aftermath of World War I, as navies around the globe reckoned with new technology and treaty restrictions, the United States faced a dilemma: how to leap into the age of aviation with limited resources. Rather than build a carrier from scratch, they chose a radical path: convert Jupiter, the world's first turbo-powered naval vessel, into a floating airfield. At Norfolk Navy Yard, workers stripped away the massive coal-handling gear, clearing out the cavernous holds once packed with black dust. In its place, a full-length, 534 feet wooden flight deck took shape. Broad, flat, and unobstructed, unlike anything the fleet had ever seen. Below, engineers installed elevators and a hangar bay, carving out space for dozens of fragile biplanes. The ship's electric drive remained, a marvel of its own era, providing smooth, steady power for her new mission. Commander Kenneth Whiting, a submarine veteran and relentless advocate for naval aviation, took charge of the transformation. He pushed for innovations that would become carrier hallmarks: arresting wires to catch landing planes, crash barriers to protect crews, and signaling systems to guide pilots safely home. Every detail was debated. Traditionalists warned that a converted collier could never withstand battle, while advocates like Whiting argued that experimentation was the only way forward. Budget cuts and the Washington Naval Treaty forced the Navy's hand. Langley would be the experiment, her success or failure setting the course for a generation. The conversion was not just technical, but cultural, challenging assumptions about what a warship could be. On March 20th, 1922, the ship was recommissioned as USS Langley, CV-1, named for Samuel Perrant Langley, the aviation pioneer. Naval records from the National Archives detail her new layout, flight deck, hangar, elevators, and the distinctive turbo-electric machinery below. Langley now stood ready, not as a coal carrier, but as the world's first American aircraft carrier, a platform for ideas that would shape the future of naval warfare. On the morning of October 17, 1922, Lieutenant Virgil C. Griffin climbed into the cockpit of a Wave-7 biplane and faced a challenge no American pilot had ever attempted. The wooden deck beneath him stretched out over open water, narrow, windswept, and untested. With engines roaring and the ship's company watching from the rails, Griffin opened the throttle. The VE-7 rolled forward, lifted off, and soared into history. Griffin's flight was more than a technical feat. It was a leap of faith in a new kind of warfare, and it proved that aircraft could operate from ships at sea. Deck logs from that day record the moment in spare official language, but the reality was anything but routine. Each launch and landing demanded split-second timing and nerves of steel. Pilots described the deck as a moving target, pitching, rolling, and sometimes slick with spray. There were no blueprints for what they were doing, only trial, error, and the willingness to risk everything for progress. Mishaps were common. Wheels collapsed, engines sputtered, and on more than one occasion, a plane skidded off the edge into the water. Crews scrambled to haul pilots from the sea and repair battered aircraft, learning hard lessons that would shape future operations. Langley became a floating classroom. Commander Whiting and his officers developed new procedures for takeoffs, landings, and emergency recoveries. Early experiments with arresting wires and crash barriers saved lives, but only after repeated failures and near misses. pilots and deck crews worked side by side, inventing hand signals and routines that would become the foundation of carrier aviation. By 1928, the ship's company had transformed chaos into choreography. During fleet exercises off Hawaii, Langley's crew launched 35 planes in just 7 minutes, a record documented in the ship's own logbooks. The operation required flawless teamwork. Pilots strapped in and engines primed as deck crews raced to position each aircraft, clear the deck, and signal the next launch. The exercise stunned Army defenders on Oahu, who were caught completely by surprise. For the first time, naval aviation had proven that carriers could project power far beyond the horizon, reshaping military strategy in a single morning. None of these achievements came easily. Letters home from Langley's crew speak of long hours, relentless drills, and the constant pressure to succeed. Yet there was pride too, a sense of being part of something bigger than themselves. Every successful launch, every safe landing was a step toward a new era at sea. The lessons learned on Langley's deck would echo through the decades, carried forward by the men who dared to fly from her wooden runway. February 27, 1942, south of Java. The USS Langley pressed forward with a desperate cargo. 32 P-40 fighters and their pilots bound for a front already crumbling under Japanese assault. The sea was calm, but tension ran high on the bridge and below decks. Escort destroyers Edsall and Whipple kept station nearby, their lookouts scanning the sky. Just before midday, the drone of approaching engines shattered the uneasy quiet. 16 Japanese G-4M bombers flying in tight formation swept in for the kill. The first 2 bombing runs missed. The third did not. 5 bombs struck home, tearing through the flight deck and igniting aviation fuel. Fires raced along the hangar, and the engine room flooded within minutes. Langley lost power and began to list. Smoke pouring from her shattered hull. Damage control teams fought the flames, crawling through choking heat and falling debris. Captain Robert McConnell, calm amid chaos, weighed every option. The order came down. Abandon ship. Crewmen and Army pilots scrambled to the rails, lifeboats swinging out as explosions rocked the deck. Discipline held. Men waited for their turn, helping the wounded, lowering themselves into the sea. Edall and Whipple closed in, dodging debris and enemy fire, pulling survivors from the water. At 14:29, with Langley empty and burning, her escorts fired shells and torpedoes to scuttle the hulk, denying the enemy a prize but leaving the first American carrier to the deep. 16 of her crew died in the attack. The rest watched from the waves as the ship that had changed naval warfare slipped beneath the surface, her mission unfinished, her fate sealed by the relentless tide of war. For decades, the Java Sea kept its secret. Wartime chaos had scattered records, and the coordinates of Langley's sinking drifted into uncertainty. Early search teams, armed with outdated charts and primitive sonar, scoured the region without success. The ocean floor, shaped by shifting sands and strong currents, offered only silence. Each failed expedition left behind more questions than answers, and Langley's resting place faded from living memory. Her story unfinished, her fate unresolved. In 2017, a new chapter began. A joint team from the Indonesian National Archaeological Center and the Australian National Maritime Museum launched a focused search, determined to end the mystery. Their ship, the MV Mermaid Sapphire, carried technology undreamed of by earlier explorers. Multi-beam sonar swept broad swaths of the seafloor, painting a digital map with every pass. A promising shape appeared, long, rectangular, out of place among the scattered wrecks of war. Remotely operated vehicles slipped beneath the waves, sending back the first clear images. The camera's light revealed riveted steel, the outline of a flight deck, and the remains of collapsed hangar walls. Technicians compared these features with archival blueprints. The dimensions matched. The distinctive elevator openings, the footprint of the turbo-electric machinery, the scattered debris of aircraft components. Each detail fit the Langley and no other. Expedition leaders described a sense of awe as the evidence mounted. After 75 years, the Pioneer had been found. For the families of Langley's crew, the discovery offered a measure of closure, a final resting place confirmed at last. The site was treated with care and respect, recognized as a war grave. No artifacts were disturbed, and the wreck was left undisturbed beneath the Java Sea, a silent witness to innovation, sacrifice, and the enduring power of remembrance. On March 20th, 1922, USS Langley was recommissioned as America's first aircraft carrier, a transformation documented in official Navy records and marking the birth of modern naval aviation. Archival flight logs confirm her 1928 record: 35 aircraft launched in just 7 minutes. In her final mission, Langley carried 32 P-40 fighters before being lost to enemy bombs on February 27, 1942, as documented in after-action reports. For 75 years, her resting place was unknown, with wartime records incomplete and survivor accounts unable to pinpoint her fate. Only in 2017 did a joint expedition using multi-beam sonar and ROV imagery confirm the wreck's identity on the Java Sea floor. Some records from her final hours remain classified, and the full story of her crew's ordeal is still being pieced together. Yet, every aircraft carrier in service today traces its origins to Langley's groundbreaking design and her crew's courage. Her rediscovery closes a chapter of history and ensures her legacy will endure, anchored in fact and remembrance.